Around one and all as we celebrate the magic of women in cinema at our Film Coven. We're your hosts, Kelli Mehan
and Melissa Woody, and today we are doing Judy Garland, which, like, there's some weight to that name, so it's kind of intense. Yes. Kelli, how did you first get introduced to the legend that is Judy Garland?
It's got to be Wizard of Oz. I mean, I think that's just one of those pretty old childhood classics. It seems to be a lot of people have watched it in childhood, and if not, they come to it later, and it's always like, oh, I don't know how I missed that in my childhood, or like that was just one of the, like, it seems to be like a big loophole. This is, I think it's like the third, but then on AFI, it's like in the top 10. I forget where it sits there. Like, it is just one of those ones that is everywhere. And so you see Judy Garland as Dorothy Gale, I think, before anything else. Melissa, did you have a similar experience?
The movies that we're going to be kind of talking through today, these are the only movies I've seen her in, I believe. So I really need to, like, up my Judy Garland filmography knowledge for sure, because, like, she is somebody who is incredibly talented and has quite list of, like, great movies and a lot of musicals, going with the theme of this month. Yeah, she's actually somebody that I very much, like, in my mind relate to Marilyn Monroe, which kind of last year I had not really seen any of Marilyn Monroe's movies, and now I've seen quite a few, because she is just such this, like, pop culture kind of figure in my mind, Judy Garland, but, like, I just, for whatever reason, just haven't really dived into her filmography very much like last year with Marilyn Monroe. So I probably will continue on even after this episode, because I do want to, like, see more of her work. And also just there's a lot of different, like, adaptations and things about her that I haven't really dug into, and I don't really know why, because she's great.
Judy Garland's definitely one of those figures. The more I dive into film, the more I'm just enamored by her. As we sort of said, like, you see her as Wizard of Oz, but it's not until maybe later that you hear the stories of what it was like in the studio system at MGM and a lot of her personal life. And when you start to dive into that backstory, I think you have an even greater appreciation for the performances. So when we were talking about who I'm going to dub, like, the queen of musicals, like, I think she is. If we were going to focus on one person's filmography for our theme of musicals for the month, you have to go with the person who has, like, 3 musicals on the AFI 25 greatest of all time. On the 100 songs, I think she's got about 5 or 6. And as I sort of said, I think I first started getting really into the backstory through You Must Remember This, the podcast. Amazing. In the episode 5, they did a whole episode of Judy Garland, just those things, like, you never really knew. It just seems like a really rough time.
You look back at your childhood. Should I forget that?
No, it's all right.
Was there any part of it that was happy?
Yeah, one day about...
And I think that's why all her vulnerability, how she sings with such emotion, it really connects to us as the audience. So there just hasn't been another talent like her. When I was watching Megan in St. Louis today, and I'm like, she's just a one and only, you know. So I'm so happy we're going to talk about it today.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
We'll start with 1939 and The Wizard of Oz. Melissa, can you remember the first time you've seen this? Because honestly, I cannot. It just is one of those ones that seems to always have been around.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it as well. Like, I don't remember that distinct moment of watching it for the first time, but I would imagine it was at my house on VHS or even on TV, because I do feel like this was one that was constantly, like on repeat on like TBS or something like that as a kid. And yeah, like she's just somebody who I very much gravitated towards watching the film at a very young age. I was Dorothy for, Halloween in my younger years. I also was the Scarecrow. I guess I need to continue on with the other characters because this movie is just so iconic. Like probably the most iconic movie of all time. But yeah, I don't remember the specific first time watching it because yeah, it does kind of just feel like it's always been a part of like my movie watching life.
I feel the same. Like I grew up in a small country town. We had 3 channels, and this is like a safe. It's an ultimate family movie. When I was watching it the other day, I'm like, this just really is one of those ones. We talked about Grease being like one of the first movie musicals because there's something for like adults to enjoy and children to enjoy, but it's not on the same level. Whereas this is like the most wholesome family fun. And for a movie that came out in 1939, this looks amazing still. Like everything holds up. All the character actors in it just really steal the scenes as well. Like it's just got that, I love anything with that vaudeville infused feel to it. And you can tell that's what like a lot of the actors are bringing to it. And Judy Garland, again, just having that voice. Is she like 16 at time of recording, I think?
Yeah, I want to say she's 16.
Yeah, but I think we talked about it when we talked about Over the Rainbow, like to sing with such a maturity and such a soulfulness at such a young age is really just so remarkable.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Yeah, kind of touching on that, I definitely think, I mean, we pretty much start the film with Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and like, my God, even just like rewatching it, like not to sound like a dork or anything, but like it gives me like full body chills. And this whole movie just like makes me smile. Like, and it brings out this like very like childlike pure joy. Yeah. And yeah, I do really feel like this is like the ultimate family movie for sure. And yeah, I would say just that maturity of that song, and yeah, like being 16 years old singing the way she's singing is just, it's quite remarkable. That's just not what you would expect. She does have this maturity about her, even though, the story of Wizard of Oz, like she's supposed to be somebody who's betrayed a little bit younger, and I know that there was things involved to try to kind of make that happen in regards to making her look younger, but I think ultimately she does have this maturity in her voice, even just her speaking voice too. But yeah, she has that very much like girl next door type of image in this movie, and very like relatable character.
It's something in that vocal way of speaking, and it is that stage presence that probably comes from doing all like being a child actor and growing up on the stage, because it's that like it's that strange. It's not how we would deliver what a teen would deliver today. It is very of the stage feeling, and as you sort of said, like I think she's just she's a pro. She's just an absolute stage pro at 16 already. So I think of like during Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, it's like the house began to da 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 da.
The wind began to switch, the house to pitch, and suddenly the hinges started to unhitch.
Like she just nails it.
Yes.
It's so engaging. And she has the right inflections, she has the right movements, and for what could actually be a really annoying performance, I think, because there is a lot of wailing is not the right words, but there's a lot of I want to go home and like slight whinging. It doesn't come across that way at all. It's only when I'm watching it now I'm like, oh wow, and I'm actually just looking just for what she's doing in the movie. And again, that's what I'm loving about this project. When we're looking at just what our central female characters are doing, it does change what I'm responding to in the film, which is really interesting. So when I'm looking at what Dorothy's doing, it's a lot of I want to go home, or like a lot of you poor thing, and a lot of emotings. And yeah, she just really it's also just those bonds she feels with Scarecrow, with Tin Man, and with Lion. And it's as I said, it's just joyful. It's pure joy. It's friendship and movie magic.
This movie is like movie magic. Like obviously Judy Garland is incredible, but even just all the other stuff, of course, like the production design and the costumes and just all of it is just, it's incredible that it's from 1939. Like it feels so modern in a way. But also, like, yeah, it's just a timeless classic.
It's really hard when, as I sort of said, when we were watching it, it's not a lot of growth, it's not a lot of development, it's a lot of on the one line, but it's not boring. Oh, something I loved about the film as well was just like the pacing. Like, we are just moving along at a good pace, and it's another reason it's a good family film. Like, nowadays they're going to blow it out to like 2 hours 10, and they're going to add in extra scenes and all that. And this one is just like good all the way through. You mentioned the colors. I think, yeah, and as I sort of said earlier, it's that Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, follow the yellow brick road. I think that's what sticks in my head the most about the film. And when I think of Dorothy, I think of that and just her feet skipping down the road. Something that I love, we have two, I'd say two, really iconic female performances in Good Witch Glinda and Wicked Witch of the West. I almost said East. Because I was sort of watching, I'm like, is a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, Glenda definitely gives off like that like facade of being nice but a little bitchy on the like inside. And I it's like something I mean I've seen this movie several times, but like I do love that quote, "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?"
Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Again, it's the delivery of the lines too, and oh my god, the costumes, like, incredible. I love her big pink sparkly dress with the crown and everything. It's great. And her bubble showing up.
Yeah, and she's just so blasé. Like, and that's something I didn't remember. It's just like, she talks about like not all witches. I thought only witches are ugly, but not only evil witches are ugly, or things like that. But she's just like, now be off before someone drops a house on you. And I'm like,
Oh, rubbish. You have no power here. Be gone before somebody drops a house on you.
someone who's like one of the most iconic villains of all time is Wicked Witch of the West. How do you respond to the character in the film and her antagonistic relationship with Dorothy? Because we haven't touched on that yet. We talked about the friends briefly, but they have a really good dynamic, the Wicked Witch and Dorothy together.
Margaret Hamilton, she just has that face. I'm sorry, like, sorry, not sorry kind of thing, but like, she just has the perfect like disposition of like being a witch. And so like adding the makeup and the costume and everything just like elevates it even more. And I love the green makeup and you know, the class, very much like the classic kind of witch.
I think she was unfortunately quite
casted
as that, and like kids were like a bit like some bit of a Joffrey situation, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but she has the look. Sometimes when you have the look, you kind of have to embrace it, I feel like, but I get it. Yeah, it kind of sucks that she couldn't have like maybe more variety and roles to come. But no, I do love, I can't remember her because there's kind of that duality of like the Kansas
the neighbor
life
lady.
and then
I'm blanking
Oz.
as well.
I can't remember her name, but I love kind of the look of her like human
upright,
you know,
stick in the
Kansas form. Yeah, and I love the editing of when the tornado's happening of her with the bike and then transitions to the broom. That is just, it looks so good. And it's just, again, I'm just blown away that this was made in the 30s. I'm just like, what? This movie's amazing.
And like all those quotes that live on, like Toto doesn't wear in Kansas anymore. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. It lives on. For book week, like at school, I still see about 10 kids dress up as Dorothy. I get some Wicked Witches every now and again, and I've seen a Glinda. Like, it's just one of those things that seems to really keep connecting, and that story, the mythos keeps building as well, because then we get like Wicked and things like that. Lots of video game adaptations. We get Once Upon a Time. Like, everyone, you as a collective, we like to keep coming back to this story. And I've said it for like a lot of other movies as well, but it's very true for this one. It rests a lot on Judy Garland and that delivery as Dorothy. I don't know if it's as successful a film if you don't have that right person and that somewhere over the rainbow that is movie history right there.
Quick little side plug. Me and Kelli talked about Return to Oz on her podcast doing Disney. You should go check it out.
Absolutely.
Because that was so much fun. And this is a movie I feel like we could talk for like hours because there's so much to dissect about it. But yeah, I think without Judy Garland, I don't think this movie would be as successful as it is and was. So I think she definitely makes the movie. And I think like it's a positive and a negative, because like this is probably the most iconic and referenced movie of all time. And with that said, I feel like as like the film industry and everything, I think they really tried to hold on to that with Judy Garland specifically. And so I think it was really hard for her to kind of go into her next steps of her career in a way, because I think they were trying so hard to hold on to that Dorothy character and kind of that girl next door image. So that I feel like that's a good transition to our next film.
Yes. Want an introduction? Yes, well, all right.
Meet Me in St. Louis, where she is becoming kind of this young lady in the movie. And I do kind of feel like, I mean, again, like I said at the beginning, I haven't seen a lot of her films, but even kind of just doing some research for this episode, it does kind of feel like this was a big hit for her in her career, and like this was kind of her coming into her womanhood. How did you get introduced to Meet Me in St. Louis?
Very much through just trying to plug those musical gaps. So probably 2016, 2017, going through the AFI Top 25 musicals and just going through what I hadn't seen yet, and Meet Me. Okay, is it Meet Me in St. Louis or Meet Me in St. Louis? Because like I get the song stuck in my head, so then I just always go like Meet Me in St. Louis.
I think it's St. Louis. It's one of those things where I think
Either
that's
or.
just how it's pronounced, even though even though it looks like Lewis, I think it's pronounced St. Louis. I don't know.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about this is definitely a transitional movie. MGM really wanted another big hit musical to replicate what we had in Wizard of Oz, and you have her major breakout role with Wizard of Oz, because for the longest time I think it was just like she was in bit parts. She was like Mickey Rooney's like the girl who didn't get the guy, like that sort of thing. So to really come into her, I love that phrase, like to come into her womanhood in this film, because Vincent Minnelli and whoever's their cinematographer, they love her face in this film, and it shows. Like the lighting is gorgeous, and there's just some of these real close-up beautiful shots in the film, and she just looks stunning. And it is so superficial, but whenever I watch this movie I'm like, that hair color is just mwah, like it's beautiful.
No, I completely agree. So Vincent Minnelli this is the movie that they met each other on, and they ended up getting married. And I very much feel when you're in love with somebody and you're a director, I feel like you just film them differently, and it just shines through. It very much gave me how Joan Crawford is filmed with Dorothy Asner filming her, because there was like some love connection there, and I see that with other examples too, but just like a classic example. But I can see that with Vincent Minnelli, just the way that he shoots her. It just, she just looks gorgeous in this movie. And I love the hair. Even just not even just the hair color, but the hairstyle. Yeah,
like the huge bangs.
Great.
I know we were getting ready to, I'm like, I just cut my bangs like right now. Like when I watch it just looks great. I'm like, no, because you just never look like that. And it just suits, like this movie, we talked about Wizard of Oz being a family favorite. This movie is so saccharinely wholesome, but I really enjoy it. Like it's of a time period, it's early 1900s, and it's nice to step into that world. There's no drama. It's based off, I think, like New Yorker small family stories, and it's just nice to see a good family film, a Christmas movie as well. Like I think it's just a good vehicle for Judy Garland at this time, because we've jumped from 39 to 44 now, and if you read the behind the scenes, I love that you made that Marilyn Monroe comparison earlier, because it reminds me a little bit of like Some Like It Hot, where like it's hard, it was maybe really hard to get to this point, but when you get the finished product, it's like nothing else. Like you can't replicate that performance with any other actor.
Yeah, it's a very wholesome film. It's like a slice of life. focusing on a family at the turn of the century. I will say for the story, it's not like my favorite. Like it's a little bland for me, but at the same time, it's very, there's nothing necessarily like inherently wrong with it by any means. It's just kind of like, hey, here's this family, little slice of life, kind of told through vignettes of like through the seasons, and it's really cute and sweet. But I would say honestly, my favorite part is probably the songs and the costumes, because I just, the costumes are so much fun. And like, okay, so one of my favorite costumes is when she's singing "The Boy Next Door" and she's kind of looking through the out the window, and it's that white and blue striped with like the big white bow. Love that. And it very much gives me like Dorothy, but I'm a teenager becoming a woman. Because it's like the same kind of color palette. I think the Trolley Sonic song is probably my favorite. It's been stuck in my head for the last few days, and it probably will be for the next week.
Zing, zing, zing.
What about you? What's your favorite?
It's just great lyrics.
Sing, sing, sing when my heart strings. From the moment I saw him, I fell.
It's evocative. It's and just again the way she delivers it, which I talked about in Wizard of Oz. She brings like that stage to screen, and it's that again. It's that commanding of a group of people in the train, and it's this and that, da 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 da, like clang, 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 like, and it's not overdone. Like I feel like that's a standard now because it's been introduced in the film, so we've heard it a lot. I started singing it, and Ella's like, yeah, from The Simpsons.
Clang, clang, clang with the trolley. Ring, ring, ring with the bell. Zing, zing, zing with my heartstrings.
Thank you. Give the bully an extra point.
I'm like, no. Like it's been referenced, it's been done, but she doesn't overdo it, and that's just the best part. And I talked about earlier about I just don't know any other voice that is able to bring emotion the way she does. So whether you're talking about something like in the serious and heartbreak or just young budding love in this one, I think it's just gorgeous. From the moment I saw him, I felt like, I think that vocal delivery is just beautiful. So I agree. When I would look through like the top 100 songs from AFI, I would just go on YouTube, make like playlists and do that. Like this is one I kept coming back to. All the Judy Garlands I kept coming back to because, like I said, there's just something that you're just able to really. She lets us in. She lets us into her vulnerable moments, and that's when we're able to connect with her. And it's what great artists do. So, and as you sort of said, there's not a lot to the film. Very lighthearted. But you connect with the character of Esther, I think. I think she's a great leading lady in the film, this second-in-line daughter, very Elizabeth Bennet of her, like trying to marry off her older sister. So I like those sort of, I'm going to kiss him and I'm going to go get him sort of protagonists. It's just a nice time. Big moments that comes out of the film is Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Oh, I mean, that song is probably, I don't know. I would say Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is one of my favorite like Christmas songs, and especially this particular version. Just her voice is just so velvety, and it's just it's so rich. Like you said, there's a lot of vulnerability to it, even though again this movie is fairly like lighthearted, but she brings that emotion to the song. And yeah, it's a beautiful song. And yeah, the thing that is fun about this movie is it is a little bit of a Christmas movie too.
This is one like I didn't know came from a movie for the longest time, because it's just one of those Christmas staples. So when you get to see and hear, like I can hear it in my head as we're talking about it now. It's just one of those sorts of ones. I love that you say velvety. She just sounds warm. She's got warm tone in this one. She sounds like she's singing by the fire. Like you can hear the piano with it. It's just she's just able to create moments in these songs. And it's just such a talent, and we don't see it as much anymore. And I think that is that long time training, that stage, being on screen for the longest time. You learn your cues and you learn how to inflect in it. And yeah, she just is able to create these classics. Let's get into our final film of what we're talking about today, A Star is Born. So I think this is about 54s, was jumping another 10 years ahead. And this is definitely one of those ones that's not notorious, but you definitely know a bit of the behind-the-scenes probably before watching it, because I feel like, as opposed to maybe The Wizard of Oz and maybe in St. Louis, I feel is a bit of a forgotten musical at the time. Like, it's not a very modern one, that it's not one I hear in a lot of discourse nowadays when we're talking. It's just like, it's a fine, it's not up to The Wizard of Oz. But A Star is Born, Melissa, you lovingly said, like, it's a franchise. And I love it. It's a franchise at this point. This is already a remake. And we've had 2 remakes as well. For me, this is the definitive one, and a lot of it is in that backstory leading up to the film. This is Judy Garland's big comeback movie. This is a George Cukor movie, and this would not be the last time we talk about him, because he just makes some of my all-time most favourite films. How did you get introduced to A Star is Born, Judy Garland?
Yeah, so it was this episode. I had never seen it before. I had only seen earlier last year. I had only seen the Lady Gaga one for like the longest time, and then I did watch the original 1930. I can't remember what year, the 30s version last year. So I had seen those 2. So it's like, okay, I know kind of like the general plot. So I was really excited to see this one, because I do eventually want to see the Barbra Streisand one, because now that's the only one in the franchise I have not seen. But no, I mean, this is a juggernaut kind of movie. I mean, it's 3 hours long. It's a lot of movie. It's a lot of songs and emotion for sure. I do want to rewatch it, I guess is what I'm getting at. I think it was a lot to digest in one sitting. And then I will say, like, looking up kind of things for this episode, definitely the backstory adds that extra layer. It actually really was reminding me of Sunset Boulevard, in the sense of how meta this movie gets with some of the stuff that's going on. But I will say I really enjoyed it, but I do want to rewatch it, because I did feel the length a little bit while watching, and I was a little bit confused by the picture stills.
Yes.
But I learned that, some of the movie was, I guess, lost and then restored, but then also lost.
Yes, that's the version of
it's only the
that's
audio.
the version I've watched as well, with the stills. And I remember, so I've only watched it the once. I need to rewatch it for this, but the Star is Born story, I really enjoy it a lot. I saw this one first, and then I watched the Lady Gaga, then I watched the Streisand, and I just haven't watched 37 yet. It's quite heavy and it's quite triggering. So I might just be a one and done with each time I watch one of these, because it tends to really sit with me for a long time. And so I haven't seen this in a good 6 years or so, but like, I feel I can still feel the weight of it. Do you know what I mean? And then that's what you said, like, it's a lot of movie. It's really heavy. Yeah. I know we both really love these Hollywood stories. Any movie about movie making or behind the scenes, I think is fantastic. And as you sort of said, the meta-ness of it all is just quite fascinating. I have to, though, talk about how I actually probably got introduced to this film, which is Gilmore Girls, season 5, when Luke breaks up with Lorelai and she watches the man that got away. This is one of the most heartbreaking scenes from TV, and then when you watch the movie, it's a beautiful song. It's heavy lyrics. Like, I don't know how to describe it, because she's able to deliver it with such finesse. She finesses the song.
It's all a crazy game.
Oh yeah, this is the song, I think, out of all the songs in this movie. This is definitely the most emotional. Yeah, she definitely, I mean, her singing is just so effortless, and it's very powerful with like the lyrics and the delivery of it, for sure. Yeah, because if I'm remembering correctly, this is the first song that he's watching her perform.
And it feels very authentic to Judy Garland as well. Just that, it's all you need is just her and a piano and a band, and I think it brings out the best, and it's why this was the comeback, and it's why she was cast for it, I think. The
born in the trunk kind of movie within a movie almost sequence. It's like I think upwards of 15 minutes long. I mean, that was just really, I think, a standout moment for sure in the movie. Again, it's one of those ones where it's like, okay, I want to rewatch, because I feel like I maybe missed pieces of it, type of thing. But I do think that was a really cool kind of segment of the film. Another scene that I really like is the agent, or I don't remember. I don't know the other like side characters really, but somebody was talking to Judy about her husband, like him kind of, you know, that he's struggling, and she's getting ready for a show, and she's like just putting on her makeup again, kind of like we've talked about in this show before, like just standing in the mirror and putting on your makeup type of thing. There's just something about that, but especially with this scene because she's getting emotional, but it's just like the show must go on, and I very much feel like that's Judy Garland, kind of her whole life story is like the show must go on. So like it was very emotional, I would say. Just even though it's like kind of just like a small moment in the film, I definitely like that was something that stood out to me.
It's the song pieces, and I think that again that's like a George Cukor strength, because then we get like My Fair Lady, and it's like a lot of those big stage musical moments I really respond to. And just anytime Judy Garland's singing and then singing and dancing, it's really quite mesmerizing. But it's more for me just that portrayal of going from like ingenue to those ending scenes. I think it ends with like I'm Mrs. Norman.
This is Mrs. Norman Maine.
That delivery there, like I remember that, and so it's just the journey we get to go on, and you can sort of tell that's why like this was the Oscar nominated performance. Have you watched The Country Girl? Because I have not, because I can't say whether I think this should have beaten it or not.
It is a crime that she did not win. I don't know who all the other nominees were, but The Country Girl, I'm sorry, like Grace Kelly, you're wonderful, and I don't like pitting women against women, but if I'm looking at both roles, like The Country Girl it's just such a nothing performance for me. It's just like, it's very like, I don't even really remember her in the movie very well. And I remember, I think on View 52, we talked about it a little bit, but like, yeah, I don't get it. I don't know why she won. It just seems like oh, it's the one female in the movie like role, because I don't really even remember that many females in The Country Girl. So yeah, it's weird because I just think Judy Garland is putting on like a one woman show throughout this whole film. I mean, obviously there's other great people, and especially her co-star. Can't remember his name at the moment. Something. I can't remember. It's something like that. All the names. I'm sorry. I'll put it in post. Sorry. Because like their dynamic and chemistry is great. Like they're definitely the strongest piece of the film. But it's Judy Garland, because like this is again kind of prepping for this episode. Like this was her comeback role, and what a bang she came back with, because it's an incredible performance. Another quote that I really liked from the movie that stood out was it's something to the effect of like, I feel the most alive when I'm singing.
Somehow feel most alive when I'm singing. It's like you don't want to hear all this, do you?
And you could just tell that was very like heartfelt and real for her, I think. In life too.
And also when I think of this movie, like I think of the poster, I think that's one of the most iconic Judy Garland shots, as well as her doing like I think you just know what you're doing when you do that. It's just one of those really well-known images. So yeah, I do wish maybe this would have been the one. This was the one.
There's no place like home.
Melissa, you said you haven't watched a lot of the other ones. What's on your radar? Because for other musicals, I really like Easter Parade, but it gives me very much Mimi and St. Louis vibes, where like there's no drama, like, and it's unfortunately one of those other movies where Fred Astaire is just much older than his co-star, and it just doesn't work sometimes. But she's very good. What else is on your radar that you would like to see?
I mean, I'm kind of open to all of her like music, especially with like sticking to the musical theme this month. I've been trying to kind of focus on musicals as much as I can. So yeah, I'd like to see the Easter Parade. I think the Harvey Girls is another musical
with Angela Lansbury.
Summer Stock.
Yes, because that's Get Happy. So you know some of the songs from the movies without having seen the movies is what I find a lot with Judy Garland as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because obviously, like, Have Yourself a Little Merry Little Christmas. Definitely, I've heard that like my entire life. And then like seeing the movie, I saw that movie though when I was younger because my grandma really liked that movie. It was one that I watched with my grandma. But yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to kind of diving into her filmography a bit more. And yeah, if you have any recommendations, put them in the comments.
Absolutely.
Judy Garland movies.
Outside of movies, I also think of just like some of the amazing live performances we were able to get later, because obviously she was able to do these great stage performances. I think of like Come Rain, Come Shine, and we see that in the Judy movie. I have seen it the once and I thought it was fine. Renee Zellweger's good in it, but there wasn't just like a lot I took away from it. It's been more when I've like listened to podcasts when you hear like Liza Minnelli or Lorna Luft speak about Judy Garland. I feel like really connects to her. There's the story, I remember Lorna Luft talking about how like they would be in hotels and Judy Garland would like change the shoes from outside of people's doors, and she'd be like, Mum, how can we do this? And Judy's like, well, no one would think it was Judy Garland that did it, or something. Like, I'm butchering that, but it was something like of that anecdote. And I think you see a lot more of that playful, whimsical side. And I think she was, hopefully, from what I've seen, able to probably carry a lot of that through life, and that's why we're still able to connect to the heart.
The one thing that my mom really did not like, and I continue to hopefully put to bed that myth, that my mother was this tragic figure. Okay, yeah, she had tragedies in her life, but she wasn't tragic. She was really funny. Like, she had this really childlike, wondrous sense of humor.
No matter what stage of life we see Judy Garland in. And I think the 3 movies we talked about today, you get to see a lot of that growth and development and why she was just such an icon of especially this early Hollywood movie production we seem to see.
Yeah, she's just an icon. She's a legend. Like, yeah, she's somebody that we definitely need to look at her body of work, and that I have homework to do to look into it more. I did, again, kind of researching for this episode, I did not know this fun fact that she was the first woman to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. She was the first woman ever to do that. So I thought that was a really cool little factoid. Because yeah, later in her life, she did like live performance type of work with just like her music, and yeah, she won Album of the Year, first woman to ever do it.
Yeah, and I think another big part of the Judy Garland legacy is the connection to the LGBTQIA+ community. I mean, Stonewall riots, I had no idea, commenced on the night of Judy Garland's passing, and obviously we have the term "My Best Judy" or "A Friend of Judy" as one of those like inside sort of terms of someone of the community. So I think people can just really relate to her and see the struggle and see themselves in her, and just so grateful we get to have someone like her that we can connect to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's referenced in Clueless, Friend of Dorothy.
Friend of Dorothy, know what I'm saying?
Yes, Christian, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that she's kind of this gay icon nowadays. Very much a part of like the drag culture, which is really cool to see. But yeah, no, she's just somebody, despite her struggles throughout her life, and it's something I can very much connect with in regards to having loved ones who struggle with addiction and substance abuse. I've lost both of my parents that way, and she's just somebody that I can see them in her in a way, just because of that. But she's just somebody who is like, the show must go on. And I think if like she was still around, I think she would want her legacy to be, the songs from her movies and the songs that she sung. And that's what I think about when I think of Judy Garland. It's definitely her voice.
Is no matter what, the show must go on.
Well, that's going to wrap up our episode. Melissa, it's just been so much fun doing a whole month of musicals. By the time this drops, we'll have our montage out. We've done Grease, and we'll have our live episode coming up next. So we will definitely be talking more musicals. It's definitely one of our passion points at the show. Melissa, where can people find us, please?
Yeah, you can find us on X. You can find us on Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, new on Discord. I'll put that announcement up probably soon, so you can join in on the conversation with us. And yeah, just like you know, Judy Garland, she turned the tragic into magic. And everyone, please stay magical.
Forget your troubles, come on, get happy. You better chase all your cares away.